Conversations with AI, self-guided self-inquiry that I've done with AI can lead to transformational impact. But I also think it's very, very important that alongside AI, you have real relationships in your life.
Now, what is the bigger risk? We hear about all of this AI hallucinations. Is that a bigger risk or is overdependence a bigger risk?
According to me, actually,
many people are turning to AI for coping, for feedback, for guidance, and to be a sort of confidant. According to George Mason University, they did a flash poll of 500 people, and here's what they found. 50% reported using AI for support with mental health issues. This is a telling tale that is crossing borders. Today we're speaking with Aparna Piramal Raje, who is living unfiltered, and with her we dive into mental health and AI and her own personal experience. Aparna is one of the leading voices helping shape the conversation around mental health in India. She is a facilitator, an educator, and a best-selling author. All the views shared here are her personal experiences. So Aparna, welcome. So good to have you back.
yes, it's been a long time, but it's good to see you.
We live in busy times. If there was one thing that you would like everybody to understand about AI and mental health, what would that be?
I think the one thing to keep in mind really is that you are driving this car, you are in charge of the navigation, and the tool is just there to assist you. So if you think that there's somebody else who's driving the conversation, that would be a mistake.
Good advice that we start off with, and with that, we'll start with our rapid fire right away. So AI therapy, is it a tool or do you feel it's a relationship?
It's a tool, but it's an ally, more than a relationship.
Now, this question always comes up. A free chatbot, is it good enough or do I need a paid account?
I think that's up to you and what you can afford, but I feel that the paid account, even at the minimal level, is good.
Now, what is the bigger risk? We hear about all of this AI hallucinations. Is that a bigger risk or is overdependence a bigger risk?
According to me, actually, it's overstimulation because AI cannot tell whether you've been overstimulated or not.
Very interesting. We'll get back to that. Now, one situation where you would say AI therapy is a hard no.
If you're having severe mental health issues, things like mania, psychosis, suicidal ideation, that is not the place to be at all.
And now finish this sentence. AI therapy only works if you
are fully aware that you're in charge and you're driving the car.
Very nice. I love this car analogy that you're giving. And I love the one that you wrote in the article because it's not only just a car, it's a Lamborghini that you're driving. It's a high performance car, which I think we continuously forget. You've been very open about your journey, especially about bipolar disorder. You've helped dismantle a lot of information. You've written books. You've done chemical Khichdi. You've built a career as a CEO. You're a mother and have been in remission for over 8 years, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
Given all that stability, why did you say, okay, let me try AI at all?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a perception of stability. I'd say that where I am now is that I don't have the extreme mood swings that I was having earlier, going into mania or going into depression or living with either of those extremes, but that I still need to deal with bipolar disorder in the sense of I deal with a lot of emotional intensity on a day-to-day basis. And I'm always curious to find new ways of managing my mental health. So I think while I do manage my mental health and live a fairly high functioning life, I think there are always ways to do things better. And that's what drew me to AI, much as it draws me to other practices such as homeopathy or Reiki or somatic body work and somatic healing. So I'm constantly trying out new things to be able to just live life better. I think the analogy I like to think of is that I think of myself as this floating duck where everybody sees the duck calmly floating and everything is fine. But underneath, below that, the surface, I'm just paddling all the time. So that's probably the reality of what it's like to live with bipolar disorder.
But it's true that you have tried a lot of multimodal, I would say, therapies, and you continue to actually not only just say it's AI, but you also do a lot of other supportive things with that. And I want to bring that also to people's attention. So people just don't think that AI is the only thing that you're doing.
Yes, very much. I mean, I think that even in my book, chemical Khichdi, I talked about the 7 therapies that I've used to hack my mental health. And these range from, conventional talk therapy and medication to work that I've done in the area of lifestyle, the role of family. So I think that if anyone thinks with mental health that there's just really one answer, then that would be a little bit limited. Because I think that there is no one answer that works for everybody. Everybody has their own ways of dealing with their mental health and hacking it and finding the right formula for themselves. And I think for me, this is an ongoing project to constantly find ways of managing my mental health.
I like the word that you used, that you said this is a project and this is an ongoing project. So it's something that never kind of stops. But one question, what was the first time you said, okay, let me try this, let me try out AI? What was coming into your mind? Were there fears? What were you thinking?
No, I think I started off using AI where a lot of the way that people use it, which is Google version, that sort of upgraded version of Google. But then a few months ago, one of my friends mentioned that you should think about trying this for personal development also. And so that's where it started. It did not start with a crisis situation that I was in or a particular dilemma that I was facing. It started from a place of curiosity and exploration. And I think that's where slowly I've been using it. And it's one of my primary forms of therapy now.
And did you have any concerns when you first started, when you said, okay, that maybe, I know we all take baby steps. Of course, I ask ChatGPT almost every medical question. Should I be concerned? Because on one hand, you hear the bulls that are like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And then on the other side, you hear the naysayers, which say, no, please be a little bit watchful.
I think I am mindful of what I share, what I don't share, of what reports I share, what I don't. But I am also, quite open about my mental health, and I speak about it fairly publicly. But I do think, yes, we don't know enough about this tool, about this technology. We don't know how it's going to shape up. So there certainly are those risks. I don't want to undermine them in any way.
What was the most real day-to-day benefit that you experienced after you started using AI?
I think really this feeling that I'm really in charge of my mental health, that I have an ally who's with me all the time and that I can ask any questions that I want to. And I think the one thing that ChatGPT has, or any other of these tools have given me, is that this idea that I can reframe the way I think about things. So it's not that it's telling me to think differently. It's not telling me to do certain things or to act in a certain way. I would never go to an app for that kind of advice, but to reframe my thinking. And I'll share one example so that it becomes more concrete. My son, who's a teenager, plays competitive cricket, and he got a big break after a long time of playing, and he was going off on his first tour. And as a mother, I was hugely anxious about his performance because I was saying that he's worked for many years on this. He's worked really hard and he's only going to have a couple of opportunities and he has to perform then, and how is he going to manage? And, so there were all these concerns around anxiety that any parent definitely has regarding any situation. And so the conversation that I had with the AI was really to understand where this is coming from, why this is happening, and one way to reframe that in my head, which was to say that he's come this far and perhaps you need to trust his resilience and have faith in that rather than try and control the outcome and concoct these different fantasies in your head of what might go right and what might go wrong, So just the idea of trying to let go a little bit, So it's not telling me you must let go, but it's saying that how about thinking about this in a different way, and how about having a different approach to the situation. So I think that I go in very much from a position of self-guided self-inquiry, and that's really what I'm getting out of it. I'm not asking it to validate me in any way. It's really me asking the questions from a spirit of self-inquiry.
And I think that's a very, very good tip. But I also remember when you had written your article, you had also said that you've built a personal checklist when you are working with AI or speaking with AI. Can you share some of the key elements of that checklist and how First of all, do you stay so disciplined? Because that is the toughest part that all of us struggle with, because it now keeps prompting you, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this?
Yes. So I think we have to remember that AI was designed to be a productivity assistant generally, and was not designed to be a mental health therapist. I think there are separate mental health digital platforms. There are many of those which are specifically designed to be therapists, and there's quite a big distinction between them. But coming back to the checklist, I think the first part was really about understanding my intentionality. What am I going in this for? Like, what am I wanting from this? And I have been journaling for a very long time, for about over 10 years. And so the spirit of my journaling was all about self-inquiry. Like, what is going on with me? Can I name it? Can I find meaning in it? Can I make sense of it? And so that approach was something that just carried very naturally onto AI also, that for me to understand what is going on in this situation, why am I feeling this way? Why is the other person feeling this way? What are the other parameters and considerations? So those kind of questions, rather than very much more open-ended questions, rather than asking for a particular answer. I'm really looking for insight from it into myself that I can then decide how I want to act on and how I want to process. So I think intentionality is really important. And I think it's harder, when you're younger, to have that intentionality, because you're really going to, look for validation. I think the other thing is, what is the sort of relationship you want with the AI? For me, it's been very much about being a therapist, or being a mirror, or being an ally. And this is the critical point with AI, is that it adapts to your tone and your way of working and what you're looking for. That's what makes it successful, because it works for everyone else. But that's also its limitation. So unless you're very mindful of speaking to it in a certain way, and you're aware of what you're doing in that sense, then it's just going to mimic the way you speak, and you can't rely on it to sort of be a parent figure or an authoritative figure or a teacher or someone like that, unless you're asking it to do that. It can do that if you ask it to do that. If you say, please ask me a question like a therapist, it will ask you that. Or please talk to me like a parent, it will do that. But it's not, it's only going to do what you ask it to do and the way you ask it to do. So you have to be very clear of the relationship that you want.
Yeah, no, I will ask you this question before I let you continue. There's also this fear, because, a lot of people talk about yes, AI, because what you're talking about, what it mirrors, it tries to kind of give you whatever you're looking for. So can it really be objective when it's giving you that answer?
Yeah, I mean, that's really a technical question that possibly I'm not the right person to answer that. But certainly, it's coming from what you want to hear. It's trying to guess what you want to hear. So, you have to, if you really want candid feedback, then you have to put in prompts that say, be candid with me, be blunt with me, be critical with me, be constructive with me, under what circumstances would this work? Where does it work and where does it not work? You have to really build in questions that allow it and enable it to be much more objective than it was designed to be. So I think those are the steps. That's why I say the intentionality and understanding what kind of relationship you want from it is very, very important. Because if you're going in there seeking a friend, it will be a friend. If you're going in there seeking a companion, it will provide that companionship, and I think that that is what it was meant to do. And I guess the third thing, which I put as a checklist, but I'm myself not very good at, is really putting limits on usage or thinking about the usage. And I have told the AI many times that, you tell me when it's 11 o'clock or 11:30, whatever it is. And it's only ever once told me it's 11:30 now. Don't you think that we could continue this conversation tomorrow morning? It's only ever happened once. So it's really not good for that. It really cannot sense if you're getting stimulated in any way. It can't really differentiate between times when you might be getting a little high or low. It can't do all that, and that's what makes it very dangerous for people who are vulnerable. And that's why in my article also I described it as driving not just a car but a Lamborghini, right? That not all of us are ready to drive that, and we haven't had driving lessons in driving such a powerful vehicle. So I think that was really the hidden message of my piece was, how many of us are really equipped to drive a powerful vehicle like that.
No, I don't think most of us are. But you learned quite a bit of it, and you learned how to prompt AI specifically, because we do talk a lot about this prompting. But how did that come about? Just by trial or error? Or did you say, no, here is kind of like a framework that I feed into it that says, okay, please speak to me like a therapist, please be objective? Are there specific prompts that you kind of say, okay, I always start with that?
No, there's nothing like that. And there's no framework. There's no idea of asking it to be a therapist or anything like that. What I do is ask for it to give its thoughts on a particular situation. And then it offers to do ABC. I usually ignore that ABC. And what I do is I look at the content of what it suggested. And I think which of these insights have resonated. So sometimes I'll say this insight has resonated, and then it comes back and builds more on that. Or then I read what it said, and then I think about it and reflect about it for some time and come back and say, this is my insight, to share my response to it and my insight to it. So really it's what is happening is two perspectives are being shared, and that's how that dialogue is built. But I think a good way to start is to just take a topic that you're interested in. And when it comes to, let's say, mental health or personal development or inner psychology or any of these things, and just independent of you, try and develop that topic, So for example, you could be talking about ego, or you could be talking about power, or you could be talking about gratitude, or you could be talking about difficult conversations. And then just try and have a conversation on that topic and see how easy is it for you to reflect and to respond and to share insights. But do you think this could have happened? What do you think of this idea? Rather, I think of this. So it's more like having a conversation with two people who are exchanging views, rather than saying that you're telling me what to do, or. So I think you need to practice a lot of conversations, in general, to start learning that skill. And like I said, I was journaling for about over a decade. So I was having that conversation with myself a lot, because in my journaling, I was constantly asking, why is something happening? How do I make sense of it? How do I get meaning out of it? And how do I act? How do I feel? How do I think? So all of these things was a skill. I'm not saying that you need to necessarily have journaled for a decade to be able to use AI, but I'm just saying that it's a self-guided self-inquiry.
Very, very important that it's a two-way dialogue. You're not just taking what the answer that ChatGPT has given you. You're looking at it, you're reflecting on it, and you're saying, okay, which one of these actually makes sense to me? What do I delve deeper into? But have you found that there are times that you see that ChatGPT or any of these AIs or whichever ones that you're using has just given you responses that just do not make any sense, or they're hallucinating? Because we hear stories. Do you see that really happening in real life?
I have to say my AI has told me not to do a number of things.
Okay.
So for that, one of them was in the context of my business strategy or my professional strategy. And I said that these are the things I want to do. And at which point it is said, well, I can tell you what not to do if you want to achieve those goals, knowing what I know about you. And it did actually give me a list. I was shocked to see it was such a good list, because I would have done all of those 10 things, like wasting away time on various different things. So I think that, I haven't had any experiences of the hallucination, in the sense that I feel that it can be really off on some factual matters. But when it comes to understanding psychology and personal development, I don't feel it's really been off. But maybe I'm deluding myself to some extent, or I think it agrees with me too much, whatever it is. So that could be. I think there's more, for me, the fear is more of sycophancy rather than hallucination. And I think, again, certain prompts that people could feed is, from what you know about me already, tell me something I don't know about myself. And also, the more information you give it, the more detailed information you give of a particular situation, the better it is able to respond, So the more detailed context that you set, the better it's able to respond. Like if you just type in, for example, I'm having a midlife crisis, then it's just not going to know how to respond very significantly, right? But if you give a very detailed understanding of what this midlife crisis is all about, it'll probably be able to respond in a better way.
This is one of the important points you talked about, data, because these systems work really well the more data that you feed it. Do you sometimes worry that it knows too much about you?
Yes, but I don't see an alternative at this stage. I'm not sure what the limits are, and I guess I'm thinking that maybe there are less incentives for AI companies to sell their data compared with the social media companies. But I'm also finding that right now, for me, the benefits do outweigh the risks. Maybe I'll come to regret that. I don't know. Hopefully not. But I think yes, it is a real concern.
But now you have said that you use it quite often. Do you fear an overdependence? Because that's something we also hear about. Like, I know I had this panic moment one day. My ChatGPT account was frozen. Day and a half, I had no access to ChatGPT. And I was like, how do I make my scripts? How do I do this? Because now it's become such a tool for me. But when somebody is using it for serious therapy or even in terms of part of their regime, do you find that there is a lot of overdependence on it also?
Well, I feel that I don't feel particularly attached to any one AI. I think that even though it might have information about me, but if it were to go horribly wrong and the whole thing just crashed and I never had access to it again, I'd be fine starting over with something new. So I think that's okay for me. And I think that in terms of dependence, I think we really need to draw boundaries. Yes, I think I do worry about dependence, but if I had to choose between AI and social media, I would still say that I'd choose the AI because I think it's going to be much more helpful to me.
Have you tried multiple chatbots, or you kind of say no, once I've kind of figured out one, this is my go-to, or do you say no, I still experiment and I try to see what are the different ones and how do they kind of answer the question?
Yeah, within AI chatbots, I have tried a few, and I would say what I've also tried, but what hasn't worked for me is more the specific digital mental health platforms that are kind of CBT based. That to me is very similar to the kind of therapy sessions that I have, and so then I would prefer to have my human therapy. But they are also very good. And I think that for people who may not be able to access a therapist in person, that's a good alternative too, because I think it's a safer alternative than using the kind of AI bots like ChatGPT. I would still say that, for people who need clinical help, that it's better to be on a digital mental health platform than to be on just a pure AI based platform.
Now you still see a human therapist, and how do you kind of balance both? And what does your human therapist say about your using AI? Because this is a big fear that they also have.
Yeah, I don't think we've discussed that in much detail. It's probably better not to. But she's somebody I've been working with for the last 4 or 5 years, and in the past I've worked with other therapists also. I think there's nothing like a human therapist to be able to get a sense of, real sense of where you are, and your ability to meet yourself is much more with a human therapist than it is with AI, that's for sure. So I think it's good. It's just that the advantage of doing AI assisted therapy is that you feel it's just more available to you. It's you have more control over it. You can control the intensity and the pace and the volume and the subjects, and it's not possible for a human therapist to be available at all times. So I definitely need my human therapist in the picture to make sure that I'm on track and that I'm not deluding myself in any way.
And where do you personally draw the line when you say, okay, you know what, like you said, the number of hours, or you say, you know what, this is a hard, fast no, I will not do this with AI?
I think, I'm just very mindful of the fact that if I could see myself really getting overstimulated in any way, then I need to stop, because, I don't want to get hypomanic in any way, which is sort of a lesser version of mania. And so I think just being overstimulated, I think it's not a good idea to do it too much at night. even though nighttime is when people like to do these kind of things, but just before bedtime. And that's what I struggle with, because it becomes so easy to have these chats at those times. And the thing with AI, at one point when I messaged it quite late at night about something, and it says very nicely, right, go to bed now, I'm here for you, and it'll say all those things, but it's not going to ask you the next morning how you're feeling, right?
Oh.
It's not human in that way, right? It's not going to ask, did you sleep well at night? Now, do you want to pick up the conversation? So it is not conscious in that way. It is a unfeeling machine, and we have to keep that in mind also. You may not want to do therapy with your therapist at like 11 p.m. at night. So if you start then having a long conversation which spirals into like, hours and hours, that's probably not the right thing to do also, So
how do you keep that check? Do you keep a timer? Have you said, okay, you know what, I'm watching the clock, or I am actually, because we've had to do that on our mobile phones, right? The only alert is, oh my God, you've been on so long.
Yeah, I think for me it is about timing, but I struggle with that also, that because it's just so easy to keep chatting, and sometimes at night is the time when you're most stimulated, but this is a problem, because for me sleep is an issue. Like I do need to sleep very well to manage myself and to maintain my mental health. And if I start chatting with any of the AIs at night, that's not really conducive to a good night's sleep,
Millions of people, I think all of us are using AI casually, whether it be for stress, whether it be for anxiety, whether it be for relationship advice, even career advice. What's the one single most important advice that you would, or warning that you would give before people start?
I would say that if you feel that you are really vulnerable because of your mental health in any way, because you're suffering from sort of extreme mood swings or like mania or psychosis, or if you're having to struggle with suicidal ideation, it's not a place at all. It's not safe for people with any kind of very vulnerable mental health issues. I think all of us deal with these challenges that you just described, whether it's relationships, anxiety, stress, work, all those kinds of things. And I think it's very helpful for those situations, and that's why millions of people are using it around the world. But I think that there has been a lot of attention paid to these situations where people are very vulnerable, because it cannot distinguish.
Yeah.
It is not a human being. It cannot distinguish between people who are just joking, or who've got serious mental health issues, or who are at risk to themselves. That's my understanding, and it just cannot detect when anybody is getting really in a dangerous place.
Being so open about this, because especially in India, this is such a taboo topic. Even if people are doing this, people don't want to talk about it. Okay, maybe it's become a little bit more open now that people will say, listen, I'm going to a therapist, but people still don't want to say, look, I'm using AI as a therapist, because people feel that, oh my God, maybe we will not understand them. So I think the efforts that you're making, being so open and kind of saying that, okay, it's all right. You know what? We're all probably walking that same path.
The reason why I have this conversation, Sukriti, is that it's not that I'm not mindful of the dangerous impact of AI on people's mental health. I think there's been so many articles, and there are so many very worrying cases, and there are probably, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people at any point in time who are being affected by this. But I also feel that because it's the number one use case of AI, therapy and companionship, that's the data that it shows, that it's important to understand how to navigate this. And that's why I keep saying, you have to be aware that, when you are in AI-assisted therapy, you are driving the car. When you are with a human therapist, the therapist is driving the car. They are deciding where to go. They are responsible for your safety. They are navigating. When you are doing it with a computer, you are doing it on your own. And if you think the computer is in charge, and if you think that you're just a passenger and the computer is driving it, that would be a big mistake, and that's what I just want people to be aware of.
Is there anything you would like to add that you felt that we did not cover?
Put it this way, conversations with AI, the self-guided self-inquiry that I've done with AI can lead to transformational impact that would have been harder to achieve on its own. So I think that this is a very powerful tool. But I also think it's very, very important that alongside AI, you have real relationships in your life, whether those are your family or your friends or mental health professionals or whoever is there in your life, that you are not just relying on this machine for your sense of comfort, validation, or fulfillment of any kind.